Hey people of the VC, it's Andy Cloudy Milder back with another episode of From the Vault, the series where I show the records that I had in my collection before I started making VC videos, and the records that I show are chosen by you, yes you, the viewing public. I've got 7 records to show today, six LPs and one 12-inch single. And these were chosen by Chris Howard, Blackmore Rules, The Rock Scout, Moore Park 28, EL, Dude 1973, and 6758 Pazzy. So thank you guys for contributing numbers and choosing the records that I'm going to show today. I'm not going to cover all the rules again today. You can either watch an earlier video or in fact what I'll do is I'll try and remember to give an explanation again at the end if you are new to this series. But let's jump right in. So first one, Chris Howard. Now Chris doesn't make videos, at least I don't think he does, unless he started recently. And he chose number 50, and that is this classic Dirty Looks, Cool for the Wire. Cool from the, I was call it Cool for the Wire. It's Cool from the Wire. Just been watching one of Black Star Vinyl's videos, one about the ballads, and he's got this playing in the background. This is from 1988. It's a great hard rock album. Bit of the Bon Scotts to the vocals sounding, but not an AC/DC ripoff by any means. Especially Oh Ruby, that sounds like it's coming straight out of the Bon Scott catalogue. It's their first album. It's the only one of theirs I've heard, to be honest with you, and I consider this a straight 10. Not a bad track on here. I bought this back in June 2014. It was one of the first Discogs purchases I made, costed me, I think it was about £6. In fact, I know it was about £6 because I read it from there. And I went back and had a look at how much it was worth now, and I was fairly new to the second-hand vinyl game at that point in time. And you can pick up a copy of this for a lot cheaper than that these days. But I'm a lot more shrewd and a bit tighter these days than I used to be. I didn't know too much about Dirty Looks. There's the band, but apparently between '86 and 2010, they had 45 different band members. But it all came away when I think it's this chap, Henrik Ostergaard, passed away in 2011 when they were thinking about making another record, I believe. But that record alone is killer. I don't necessarily. I haven't looked for any of their other Standard Atlantic label, any of their other works. But if I ever come across, I'll certainly pick it up. Nice picture, poly-lined picture in a sleeve, just like the old days, with the lyrics. So thank you, Chris, for that number. Blackmore Rules, a regular contributor to this series, a good friend of mine. You chose number 85 this time around, and that's the 12-inch single I mentioned before, and it's a picture disc, and it's Girls, 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 the beginning of the end for Motley Crue for me. I bought this single when it came out. What's the back? It's got Girls, Girls, Girls on that side, and Something for Nothing and Smoking in the Boys' Room live on the B side. This is a first in this series, so one of the things I enjoy about this series is when I see what records have been selected by you guys, randomly of course, I pull them out and I make sure I give every one of them a spin, because some of them I've not played for years. This one, I struggled to pull it out of this plastic sleeve, and it's stuck again now. It's absolutely filthy. looks like it's had maybe years of some condensation. It's had nothing spilled in it, and it's nothing that can't be cleaned up. But there was no way I was gonna put that on my turntable. I really need to give it a proper clean. Like I said, this was the beginning of the end for Motley Crue for me. I really enjoyed their first 3 albums, loved it, picked this up, I remember, and was woefully disappointed by this song. I did pick up the album very recently for £1 at a record fair, and it just didn't do anything for me. So this is when Motley Crue died, as far as I was concerned, in my eyes. Since I've been on the VC, I know a lot of people have spoken quite fondly about some of their later albums. I may well pick up a few of those on CD. But as Motley Crue goes, the first of 3 albums were pretty much all I need. But anyway, thank you, Greg, Blackmore Rules, for your number. 86, that was 85. 86 was also selected, and that was by Scott, the Rock Scout. So actually, if you don't hear from Scott or I again, so we both live in the same city, and for the first time ever, the east of Scotland, or the central belt where we live, has we've got a red weather warning, and there's a blizzard going on outside, and it kind of feels a little bit like the scene with Ian Holm in The Day After Tomorrow, where the guys are kind of just realizing that this is the end. So we could be frozen by the morning, and this could well be the last video I upload. But amateur dramatics aside, 86, the Rock Scout. He does make videos, do check him out. And that's Aerosmith, Permanent Vacation, from 1987. This is a Geffen UK pressing. Again, this is one of my original collection from my teenage years, the first Aerosmith album I owned. And I bought this up when they were kind of on the crest of the wave from doing the whole Walk This Way thing with Run DMC. It's their 9th studio album, and I love it from start to finish. If you've ever heard me moaning about various instruments that appear on rock and metal albums that absolutely that should never be there, in my opinion, this is full of them. It has saxophones, it has trumpets, it has steel drums, it has organs, but I absolutely love it. What really surprised me was when I took the record out to give it a spin, the vinyl itself was still in the inner sleeve. Again, nice poly-lined inner picture sleeve, band and lyrics. And that may not surprise you, but it surprised me, because every time I've pulled out one of those old records from my original collection, I swap the inner sleeve for a separate plastic one. I always kind of think that if you slept in the same bed for 30 years, you'd welcome a change of sheets as well. And but so the fact that this was still in here meant that I haven't spun that album for probably 30 years now, or at least 28 years. So that really surprised me. I think partly because I just know it so well. It's one of those albums that I would look at, think, yeah, brilliant album, but I would probably never put on. But put it on this week, I did, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Just Geffen Records. It's got one of the bizarrest thank you ever. So the first thank you on the list of credits is to Hayek and Fina for their vocal performance of Hearts Done Time. And what is weird about it is they are killer whales. And I had to go back, despite having heard that song a million times. I had no idea that I think it's the sound you hear at the very start of that record. So that's Hearts Done Time, look it up, is killer whales. Who knew? It also gives an address for Save the Whales. So yeah, it was great pulling that out and learning that completely useless fact. So yeah, check out the Rock Scout. There'll be links to everyone's channel below. Number 117 was selected next. This is by another long-time subscriber of my channel, someone who comments a fair bit but doesn't actually make videos himself, and this is Moore Park 28. And your number is another almost straight 10 album from me, Wasps' debut album, self-titled, 1984. This is the UK pressing on Fame. Yeah, it's raw, it's brash, it's face melting metal. Easy for you to say. Yeah, it was supposed to contain Animal, but the record company succumbed to a lot of peer pressure, and that was dropped, but then later released as a UK single. I do have a copy of that. Let's say the first lineup: Blackie Lawless, Chris Holmes on guitar, Randy Piper guitar as well, and Tony Richards on drums. And I always love that, the tubes coming out of his outfit just always cracking me up. Yeah, but absolute killer album. I Want to Be Somebody, Love Machine, The Flame, Bad, B-A-D, Bad, Hellion, On Your Knees, Tormentor, Torture Never Stops. It's, yeah, straight 10. Can't beat it. It's on the saw blade custom labels. I don't think this one actually had any inner. No, it was just a plain white sleeve. So thank you very much, Moore Park. Appreciate your support since I've been making videos. Also appreciate your comments. Next up, EL, or is it L? L does make videos. Has a great series where he does double shot, where he just shows a couple of albums, nice short sharp videos, and I've picked up some killer recommendations from him over the short time that he's been here. You chose number 123, and that is another classic. Excuse me, scratching my nose, always seems to itch when I'm on camera. Yeah, Megadeth, Peace Sells, Who's Buying? But who's buying? Second Megadeth album. Surely it needs no introduction to most of you guys. I don't actually remember hearing this album when it came out. I think this was what, 86, so probably before I got into thrash really, or probably knew really what it was. But then again, I doubt Dave Mustaine can remember much about it either, given his condition at the time. Yeah, I wasn't a massive fan of Megadeth in the 80s. I did have a dubbed copy of So Far So Good So What, but I don't really remember having much access to their music. I'm very familiar with it now, and I totally agree with its iconic status. I know there's a few of you out there who this album is their favourite album by Megadeth. It's the last album that was to feature Chris and Gar before they were fired for being even bigger addicts than Dave himself. It also contains the obligatory awful cover version, I Ain't Superstitious. Awful track, but other than that, actually, it's only 36 minutes long, this, so without the cover version, you know, it's border on just being longer than an EP, but it's a great album. So thank you, L, for that. I showed you the nothing special about Capitol label, and an absolute perfectly preserved inner sleeve with the credits and track listings and the lyrics. There we go. So thanks, L. Excuse me. Dude, 1973, Chris. One of the great new members of the VC. Pretty active. He's probably one of the chirpiest guys on the VC. Nothing seems to get him down. He's likes to throw the horns, and he just seems to have fit in really well. He's not a vinyl guy at all. Mainly shows CDs, but what he shows is some pretty cool stuff. So check him out. So you chose number 131, and that's a pretty good album too. I don't know how well known this is. This is the Seahawks. It's I think their one and only album, self-titled. It's probably tell by looking at them. It's kind of a sleaze metal band, but they're sitting on this album. There's a real mix of styles. You can hear some like 80s Aerosmith in here. Bits of the Cult, and even some of the Ramones thrown in the mix. I think they even supported the Ramones during a couple of gigs while promoting this album. They were one of these bands that just basically lived the rock and roll. I would say the rock and roll dream. It's not really a dream, but they basically lived the full drink and drugs lifestyle and imploded straight after releasing this album. All fell out, and I read a quote by their manager which said, "There's only so far you can get with 3 junkies and 1 alcoholic," and he only got as far as 1 album with them. Before this, apparently, Kirk Hammett of Metallica produced some of their demos, so he must have seen something in them as well. I did hear that there was talk of them trying to get some sort of reunion back together, but Chris Schlosthart, the bass player, died of an overdose, so killed any of that really. So another example of a band that really kind of threw it all away, and it's a really enjoyable album. Half the Way Valley is a good track, and I think this is all on YouTube. You can certainly check them out there. But if you haven't checked out the Seahawks and you like the kind of this sleazy rock and metal sound of the late 80s, this is 89 actually on Chrysalis Records. I think I said that. Then check out Seahawks, Dull Boring Butterfly, Chrysalis label, and yeah, so that's it. So thanks very much, Chris Dude 1973 for that. And last but not least, 6758 Pazzy. Thank you very much again. You've contributed to this series a number of times. I think I made you wait the best part of 11 months a year the last time you made the selection, and I showed your record. So certainly. Now this series is revived. I'm trying to turn these out 1 a month, as long as you guys will keep it working for me. You chose number 133, and that's probably one of the most commercially successful albums by the Scorpions. Love at First Sting, 9th studio album. Rock You Like a Hurricane, Big City Nights, Still Loving You, probably 3 of Scorpions' most, again, commercially successful songs. I did read it is, and you guys can tell me this, if you probably, some of you know more about the recording process than I do, but this is apparently one of the first albums to have been digitally, I'm really struggling to talk today, digitally recorded. So can it actually sound better on vinyl than CD if it's a digital recording? I have no idea what goes into the process, so I may just be sounding completely stupid by making such a statement, but if someone can tell me what that means and then press it to vinyl, because that kind of makes me think about most of the new albums that come out today are probably digitally mastered or recorded and then put onto vinyl. So what am I hearing here? Am I hearing, is it possible to have such a thing as an audio file recording? I know this wouldn't be if it was analog on this format, but I'm rambling. It's sort of fairly soft rock sound of the Scorpions, really. So I think that's why it probably appealed to the masses and did so well, and made it so commercially successful. I really like it though, I have to say. I've not got a problem with it being a little bit more commercial. Apparently this cover was rejected by Walmart as well. You Americans, you know, such prudes, really. And the reissued cover looked like that. So this is the inner sleeve with lyrics and band picture, and this is on the Black Harvest label. So that's 21 minutes in. That's a lot. I'd like to thank Pazzy, Do 1973, L, Moorpark 28, the Rock Scout, Blackmore Rules, and Chris Howard for contributing to this series. If you want to see another episode of this, then all I ask is that you look in the description. There's a URL, a hyperlink, whatever you want to call it. If you click on that, it takes you to this page where I've got this grid. I'll try and put up a picture of it up there. Yeah, up there. And yeah, it's just a grid, and it's got pictures in it. And if you see a table cell of that grid that doesn't have a picture on it, you can choose that number, pop it in the comments below, and I will show the record that corresponds to that number next month. So I'm going to do one of these a month, as long as I get at least 3 people contributing to this. Really easy to do. If I get 6 or 7 a month, then this series is going to go through really quickly, and I'll move on to something else. Thank you for support for those that have entered numbers. It's not a one-off. You can enter again if you want to see it keep going. If nobody enters numbers, as I say, there won't be any more videos. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check me out on the Cloudy Milder Facebook. I think I've got 49 likes on there, which isn't big in the grand scheme of things, but the ego within me would like to see 50. So if you haven't checked out my Facebook page, what you will see on there is stuff that will eventually be shown in videos, but I pretty much show things as I pick them up there, whereas videos, things could be 3 or 4 months down the line before I've given them a proper listen before I come on here and blather on about them. Instagram as well, that's about 350 followers on there, so it's looking good. Future's bright. Join me on those platforms if you want, or just follow me on here. It's up to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again soon. Cheers.